Okay, we are recording.
All right, we'll call order the special joint meeting with the Village of Merton Board of Trustees at the Town of Lisbon Town Hall on Monday, September 28th, 2020 at 6:36 p.m. We'll do a call to order with the Town of Lisbon Board first.
Chairman Osterman,
Here.
Supervisor Gamino,
Here.
Supervisor Moonen,
Here.
Supervisor Beal,
Here.
Supervisor Plotiker. Did I say that right? Flotecker.
Here.
All right. Merton.
President Ranowski.
Here.
Trustee Blau.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Schwabi. Is excused. Trustee Blauwood. Burrell, sorry. Sorry, Mark.
Rel is here on Zoom.
We have a quorum of both boards here. Thank you. Item 3 is presentation. The Lisbon Fire Chief and Merton Fire Chief will give a presentation on the potential consolidation of the Lisbon Fire Department and the Merton Fire Department to create the Bark River Fire District. No action will be taken at this time. Doug.
I want to thank both the Village of Merton Board and the Town Board for getting together in this joint meeting. I know that that's not always so easy to do to put these meetings together, but I think it does show that the politicians in our area are very willing to look at being looking into being progressive and having reform for the best of our citizens. And I think in our presentation tonight, when we get through this, you're going to see some things that definitely need to be fixed and repaired with both of our fire departments, and that with us jointly doing this together, we can actually have a lot of movement in a positive way. So I'm Chief Doug Brown with the Lisbon Fire Department. Chief Josh Burrell is here with the Merton Fire Department, and Deputy Chief Michelle Drager is here with the Lisbon Fire Department as well. We're going to have some different parts of this presentation that we'll go through. But there's a lot of information here tonight, so I'd like for you guys to bear with me and that. Next slide. Okay, so a little bit of the background about shared services. Back 15 years ago, the Town of Lisbon entered into an intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Heartland actually to start a training consortium, and it was called the Bark River Training Consortium. Yeah, you're on slide.
Nope.
We're on 2. And the purpose of it is when ALS or advanced life services were coming into the area, Lisbon was one of the first to have paramedic service in the area, and we wanted to employ skilled nurses and other people that lived in the communities to ride along with us for a while to make sure that we were doing the patient interventions properly and to be advocates for our patients. So we formed this group. We hired some people temporarily, and we formed this Bark River Training Consortium. It kind of grew a little further. We found that there were many other things that we could do together in training that actually improved a lot of not only the EMS, but also the fire service, fire suppression.
Doug.
Yes.
I'm hearing, is your mic on? Because we're waiting.
Am I not talking into it? How's this?
I know in a second. Keep going.
I should just keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. So as time went on, we expanded that group. We hired several different training instructors for fire and EMS. And at one point, actually, Lisbon, Heartland, Merton came in. At the time, North Lake came in. We had Okauchee and Stone Bank also in it for a while. And we did we standardized a lot of our equipment. We standardized a lot of our response and how we perform. And we started using closest, fastest response vehicles, closest unit response. And we ended up responding to each other's communities. It didn't really matter who ended up there first. We just took care of business. So we developed a relationship with these other neighboring departments, and it's not uncommon across the county. All lot of these regions have done. In 2019, in July, Merton, and then again in September, our boards directed us to look into consolidation further and to put together a proposal and a plan to actually start a fire district and to merge the fire department. So under that direction, there was a shared service committee put together, and through many meetings over the last year, that group of people kind of in and out, some changes and things, but we developed kind of what we believe would be a good start for a district. What we have proposed today, even though at this point it's just now only the village
This is
of Merton
going over
and
the
Town
top corners
Lisbon
and
that are
plug
built in.
on the computer, so
Just an example of
It's
shared
hooked up directly to
services
the
and how well they can happen. Merton used to contract for their paramedic service. And when they came to us for paramedic service, we developed a program of more or less sharing the service. So for an example, we got together and had one joint common billing agency. And I'm just going to simplify the numbers here, but like if you went and had a BLS or basic life support ambulance call and you were billed $500, that agency that did the transport would get $500. When Merton was contracting for that service from another area fire department, they were contracted a flat rate to bring paramedics in over the top of that call. When they came to
computer
Lisbon
isn't
and we
strong
got
enough
together with a program that I think
so the
benefited
audio is
both
choppy going out right now.
we
It's
had our
actually
joint
physically
billing
got to be plugged
agency.
into an internet
We
connection.
allowed Merton to bill under our $500 originally.
But hang on.
Technical difficulties.
It's not that, it's our internet.
It's Spectrum's phone.
This one. I'm just gonna Google Billy use it. There it is.
Did he hear us?
We're gonna find out in a second.
Okay.
Is it still, did it switch over? Yep. Try it again, Doug.
I'm back on.
Try
Okay,
it, yeah.
so,
You have to talk to find out.
all right, I can do that. I can talk. I probably talk too much, but anyway. So in my scenario that I was giving you, when Lisbon and Merton got together to make a better ALS system, we allowed the billing agency to use our licensure. So like if a typical BLS ambulance service charge $500 and an ALS intervention or intercept would show up and the bill went up to, let's say, $1,000, we made the agreement to split the money 50-50. And so as time went on, we even trained with Merton people into the paramedic level so that they could actually answer the calls by themselves without us. And in return, we used the paramedics to backfill and support Lisbon. The customer got one bill, paid it. The community split the money. And if there was no money, we both didn't make money. If there was money, we both made money. It was a program that proves that if we get together and actually truly share a program and make it fair for everybody, you can really utilize a lot of these agreements and make a better thing for each community plus the system. So as an example of how we can move forward with this while we're reconnecting. Background, no, we're on challenges. We need to be on 3 now. So both both our fire departments right now are experiencing some difficulties. In the past, where you had volunteers come from home and answer all of the calls when the siren went on top of the building and the bells rang and came, and those days are long gone. So we have a very much decreasing volunteerism. We don't have the volunteers or the POC part-time really living in the communities anymore. The demand for services are going up. And so the skill levels are going up and the training time is going up. So a lot of the part-time or volunteer type workers are not really coming out to work anymore. And some of the levels of services, not just paramedic, but we went to critical paramedic, and we've actually done some training for home paramedicine that may and hasn't really launched yet, but could in the future maybe be a big asset to. So the Merton Community Fire Department had a 44% increase in call volume. Lisbon has experienced a 53% in the last 10 years. And right now in Lisbon, and I'm not real sure about Merton, but Lisbon has 3 subdivisions that are going in now with 50+ homes. Maybe another 3 like that proposed for next year. We have a TIP district that's being established with some industry. And the homes and this whole area are selling and are being built. They're having like 35 new building permits a year. And if families move in with 2 to 4 people and 50+ a subdivision, our population rate will definitely go up. All volumes are going up. The cost of equipment is like out of this site, just going up enormously. In our example here, Merton's fire engine 4462 costed $305,000. Today to replace that is $750,000. The last engine that Lisbon bought was $650,000. So the price of this equipment and the capital that it takes to run this stuff is getting to be way higher than what we can. Slide 4, the paid on call staffing. From 2010 to now, the membership has gone down, and so the residents that respond from home also have been decreasing. In order to have major calls answered with just your own fire department for a fire or a major incident is not practical anymore. You absolutely need to rely on your neighbors. The amount of, like in Lisbon, our residents that actually live in town are the current officers. So a lot of the paid on call firefighter paramedics are all coming from other communities. And the other thing that's notable is a lot of the people that are on the Merton rosters and on the Lisbon rosters are the same. There is some duplication here, which makes the numbers, the total numbers, even less. So if you have a major working fire and you think you're going to get, 20 people from Merton and another 20 from Lisbon, those days, that's not happening. It's not practical. So we come to why we want to build a new fire district on slide 5. Waukesha County knew that there was an issue with all the fire departments in the county back in 2018. They commissioned a countywide study to focus to see if the county wanted to run a fire department. A lot of the major cities in the county kind of opposed that, like those that already had completely full-time fire departments. So they kind of were not in tune with this study. Many departments like ours, which knew that there was a need for change, we contributed an awful lot of information and worked hard with the study. And they even came back and used Bark River and the things that we were already doing kind of as a model, and established that at the end of the study that there should be cluster fire departments in this county. Since then, other communities have absolutely moved forward. Western Lakes has grown in a cluster fire department out west in the county. Lake Country in the middle, they're growing. They recently have announced that they're taking Town of Delafield in with them. And also, I believe Wales and Genesee are talking with them. So that is going to become a cluster in that area. And hopefully after you see all the evidence here that we're laying out, that Bark River would be the north central cluster fire department for our area. There's a lot of reasons to do this, and as Chief Burrell goes on later about the budgeting part of this, you know, the focus is to take what we have together, and when we have savings from some of the duplication and how we restructure our budgeting, we can refocus a lot of the money to resources of human resources and people. So we can end up paying people probably a lot better for being paid on premise. Thus, being at the station, reducing response times, becoming more compliant in what we need to do. There are some obvious savings, you know, one fire chief instead of two. There's one administration instead of two, like one human resource department. You know, you only have one payroll. You only have, you know, you're not duplicating insurances and things. So there is a fair amount of savings to becoming one. We also can have more administrative chiefs on every shift running and organizing the call and the response. The capital, we already kind of started mentioning the cost of these engines and the apparatus rising. Like if Lisbon was to stand alone right now, we probably need a new fire engineer in the next year or two. We need a new brass truck, we need a new ambulance. Those costs, $650,000, brass truck $80,000, ambulance $150,000, $180,000. If you do things that we do, some are a lot higher than that. You know, over the next 2 years, Lisbon will probably have over $1 million, or at least a little bit close to $1 million in capital that we need to if we were to stand alone. And with a lot of these trucks and the things that we need to maintain our ISO ratings, and we don't have really a lot of the personnel to move them. So that's on slide 6. The cost of personnel is going up. The Merton Community Fire Department has a 500% increase in personnel costs over the last 10 years, and mainly due to the fact that they now have 2 paid people part-time in their station Monday through Friday during the day, because there's nobody coming back anymore. You have to have some guaranteed response. In Lisbon, we've been steadily over the last 10 years adding career people on as best as we can. We're up to 7 now. Ideally, we're going to need another one here in the next year or so that we can have 2 firefighter paramedic staff on the same shift around the clock, plus the chief and the assistant chief. So again, we've seen a 66% increase in personnel costs over the last 10 years, and we would do a lot better if we would utilize resources we have together. Merton and Lisbon has always had a great working relationship. We've helped each other out over a lot of hard times over a long period of time. I've been here since 1982, and I have to tell you, there are many times that Merton and Lisbon have come forward and helped each other out of a lot of binds. There's never really been an issue with us getting along, and the personnel are, some of them are here tonight, are very excited about this. I can tell you that the roster in Lisbon is excited about it. They would like to see this move forward, and I know the Merton people are also pretty excited about moving forward and creating this fire district. So it's the people on the departments would like to see it. We already run a lot like one department as much as we can. We do have morning and night call-ins. We organize our people on staff during the day and the night and on weekends to see who's got minimum staffing, maximum staffing, what are we short on, what skill sets do we need. And so a lot of times, like during the day when Lisbon goes out on a call and it seems like it's going to be a large incident car accident and they know that we're short staffed, I call for the Merton ambulance. Well, they're already halfway there. They're listening, they know. So that happens quite frequently, to be honest with you. And even with this agreement just being Merton and Sussex, this has been carrying on. These morning and weekend night calls that we do, Sussex and Heartland call in every day too. So we know who's at the Sussex station, and even though they're not in this preliminary agreement, we still work with them. This doesn't cut any of those guys out. We know that we need to work. We in the fire department in Lisbon and Merton has already put together our little subcommittees within the department. So we've got officers and firefighter paramedics working on standardizing all our EMS supplies, our fire trucks, all the things that we do together. They've been working on putting that all together as we become the Bark River Fire Department. I'm going to read our mission statement that we came up with. The communities of the Bark River Fire District shall provide our residents with fire and EMS services that exceed the services able to be provided as individuals. We will accomplish this goal through cooperation and synergistic alliance with a focus on excellence and value. With that, I'm going to ask Steve Drager to come up. She's going to talk a little bit about staffing models. And I'll be back up again a little later.
Hello. So current staffing model. When we look at the Lisbon Fire Department, the current staffing model for daytime weekdays is 1 to 2 to 4 full-time firefighters per month. Our nights and weekends are 3 to 6 in-on-call personnel, and our on-call personnel are either coming from home or they're in the house responding to calls. Both our fire stations are not consistently staffed right now. Merton daytime weekdays has 2 to 3 part-time firefighter EMTs. Their nights and weekends have 1 part-time firefighter EMT and 2 to 4 in-on-call staff that are coming from home. And they also have some inconsistent staffing levels. So with that, when we go to the next slide as well, that Lisbon Fire Department is able to staff 1 to 2 apparatus without being on call. Merton is able to staff 1, maybe no apparatus without being on call. So something else we need to talk about and look at are the required staffing levels with the credentialing bodies that we adhere and report to. So on the left, you can see that we have the bodies of the state of Wisconsin, the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, NABIS, Mutual Aid Box Alarm System, and the Insurance Service Offices, or the ISO. So the first one, the Certified Fire Officer and all fire engines, with NFPA, we are not able to consistently staff that. The next two pertain to EMS. We are not able to provide a critical care staff ambulance 24/7. The next one down, EMTs on ambulance. When you look at a normal BLS run, basic life support run, you need these 2 licensed EMTs on an ambulance to transport to the hospital. Standalone, we have seen where we haven't really been able to do that, but with our sharing of our members, we have been able to still meet that standard. The MAVIS, the 4 firefighters on an engine, we have not been able to consistently staff when we go mutual aid. The ISO pertains to the insurance rates. One of the things they'll do is every 4 to 5 years, they'll come in and they'll do an audit on all your calls, and they look for certain standards. So one of them is having 4 firefighters show up on scene and 1 fire chief within 7 minutes. We're not able to consistently staff that. And also looking at fire flows. So if you look at the town, they look at certain fire flow for a certain amount of time uninterrupted. We're not able to currently provide the amount of apparatus. We'll turn it over.
All right. Good evening. So, you can see that we have some issues that we do need to work out, which is why we're all here. So, the proposed staffing model that we are going to have to get us up off the ground and get us so that we can start meeting some of these minimums. So, at the Richmond Firehouse, we're looking to have that the administrative offices there for the chief and the DC will be staffed out of. We're looking to put 1 full-time person there and 1 part-time person there around the clock there. At the Good Hope Firehouse, we're looking to put a full-timer and an intern there. And I'll talk more about an internship here. And at the Merton Firehouse, put 1 part-time and 1 intern there. So we'll have a minimum staffing of 7 people
We're also looking at putting a chief officer on. Many fire departments around here, as they grow larger, they see the need to put an administrative duty chief on 24 hours a day. Well, 24 hours a day, and that's just because we do work a 24-hour style. We do work a 24-hour style job here that things do come up on nights and weekends that you need that chief officer on for. So all of the current officers that we do have all want to see this get up and running here. No one has said that they're going to leave as a result of this. We'll still utilize our pay-on-call for any large scale incidents, our vehicle crashes, our fire calls, those types of things. With this, we can staff 3 to 4 pieces of equipment without the pay-on-call, and then utilizing both pools of pay-on-call that we do have, we will be able to handle more incidents. Next slide. Talk about the internship. So this is something that's been coming about the last 5 or so years that a lot of fire departments have been using a lot more. So an internship allows all those young people that we get joining our fire departments right now, we can get more out of them by giving them a little bit more too. So we already have these younger people coming in, and we're already spending the money to train them and give them what they need to go out and get a full-time job in this field. So the internship, that we would trade a work cycle from them, and in exchange for that, we get, in exchange for us giving them the opportunity to work a full-time firefighter shift, they get all their education and training paid for, so that when they join the internship, they will leave within associates, and then they are able to go out and more easily get a full-time job in this field. So they'll get their education paid for. It's a good way for us to add staffing on. And then we would also have to have them a minimum of a firefighter and an EMT to join this internship. So most fire departments around here have looked at this. A lot of them have added it on, and it does definitely help. The only downside is you need a good amount of administrative oversight to doing something like this, because these are the younger generation coming in. We need to make sure that we are giving them the oversight and education that they need so that they can be overall successful. So this is a way to help get our staffing levels up and then grow on that. So, next slide. Our goals for year 1, we want to see net zero operational budget increase. So now we do have some exceptions to that. So we do have the full-time staff that are currently there. We don't want to say you want them to get your yearly raises and those types of things. So they do have their step wage increases, which have been budgeted and planned for, and then their cost of living adjustments. Then we also do have a plan if we wish to add a full-time person. So we want to get our overall response times down, and we want to maintain a consistent staffing level around the clock. That's one of our biggest issues right now. We do not have a consistent level. There are some nights when we are very, very thin, and some nights when we are sitting rather. And we also do need to bring the total capital that we do have down, just because these things are getting very, very costly. So some of the pieces of equipment that we have will be sold off, and some we just won't purchase new ones when the time comes. So there is a capital plan that I will talk about later on. Service levels. We want to either maintain them or improve them. There's no sense in doing anything like this if you can't at least maintain them. So we're going to maintain the critical care paramedic level. We can't really go up from there. That is the highest. Our ISO ratings, we want to see those be consistent or work on them to get them up higher. A big component of that, there's only so much you can do with a paid-on-call style fire department that utilizes those paid-on calls. As soon as we start adding people in the firehouse at all 3 firehouses around the clock, that's when you will see those ISO ratings start to go up also. And then we're also going to maintain our current fire prevention program that we have right now, including plan reviews and acceptance testing of our overlay safety system. Hand it back over to Chief Brown here to talk about the intermunicipal agreement.
Okay, so the intermunicipal agreement, that was sent out towards the end of last week, I believe. Most of you have it. The reading of this thing, I think, has been made pretty specific and detailed to what we need custom for our district. The original documents were taken from examples from other successful fire districts that we tapped into. We took those original documents and then we did start changing them around to where it would be more practical for our use. The intermunicipal agreement does create and protect the governmental bodies who control these fire departments, or this fire district, I should say. I mean, it doesn't, it's still a government body, municipal department that is controlled by the budget and by the governing boards, you guys. Even though there's a subset, it does create a fire board that does the operations and takes care of the daily routine invoicing and bills and things. And there's a new fire commission for hiring, firing, and discipline for the staff. But the end result of this agreement is still allowing the government to run this fire department, okay? And I think that's important that you know that there are always going to be guarantees for the town board and the village board to absolutely, at the end of the day, control the direction of the fire department. There's a lot of different points in here, and this document actually, when it was created, this is probably the 6th or 7th version. It's still a draft, and it has been seen by the village and the town attorneys once. This proposal has gone through. There are going to be changes, I'm sure, coming forward. And after you, as boards, collectively decide to tell us to move forward further, or how the process is going to go from here, there will be probably some revisions to this, for sure. A lot of the final document was created when the meetings became a little more smaller people participating and inputting. President Aronofsky and Chairman Joe Osterman did get together with us, Michelle and Jeff here, to create what you see here. And then there was some revisions. So there are things that need to be changed. Obviously, there's some housekeeping in this with dates and things that would have to be done. But for the most part, what it does is it definitely dictates the fire board, the creation of it, the control of it, the different reforms of membership. There's the charter members, which will be Merton and Lisbon. Then shared charter, the charter members, and then there's the people that are actually sharing in this that could come in. And then fire district still could contract out to other municipalities if those municipalities so desire. And in this, it honors all existing agreements. It honors all mutual aid agreements that are in place and any contracts right now that are in place. Okay. So it dictates the funding formula. And in this slide here, we have the basic operational funding formula is based 50% on call volume, 20% on population of the community, 20% on equalized evaluation improvements, and 10% on equalized value of land. These funding formulas put together what each community will pay. This is pretty typical across most of the districts. Every 3 years, it gets revised. And then over the next 3 years, each community has step pays to get to the new amount of money that they contributed to the district. So it's also, when there's fund balances, there's a cap of 25%, so we can get a 25% amount of funds that are in there. But keep in mind, it also directs the board, the fire board has to give an audit and show every dollar where everything is, and the audits have to be presented back to communities that are within this boundary. There are certain things that require a majority vote, and actually that's on the next slide. There we go. So in the creation of the board, at this point in time with 2 communities, it would be a 5-member board, 3 from Lisbon and 2 from Merton. But there are certain things in this agreement that would outline that you need a super majority to pass, and things that would need a simple majority. So, you know, paying for the fuel at the end of the month would just be a simple majority. Those guys on the board could vote on that, all the operational stuff. But when it comes to things and language in this agreement, or the budget, or things that are important to both communities, it would take a super majority to do that. So the little community isn't going to get overrun by the larger community, and yet the larger community has more representation on here so that they can protect their interests and keep the service levels up. So the service levels are also under that. So if we're going to be a critical care paramedic service, in order to change that, that fire board is not going to be able to do that without the community boards understanding and figuring out how to allow them to vote. Of course, I already talked about the fire commission. That's pretty much governed by state law. All the fire commissions are pretty much set up the same way. The intermunicipal agreement does allow for expansion, so other communities can come into it. And there's certain, like I said, there's certain different levels of how you can participate in this agreement. And all of those things are also based on the fire board voting and then reestablishing the forming of the funding formula. The capital is also under a formula. I'm not going to get directly into that because Chief Farrell is a nice guy, so he knows all that stuff. The buildings, different from this district to other districts, we both decided that the buildings are going to be in the possession of the communities, and that they will have to maintain, any major repairs. A lot of our buildings have already multiple agencies in them, so it only makes sense. Other options. So looking at the history of where we've gotten here and looking at other things. Contracts, if you contracted and get rid of your fire department and contracted with another service, you do lose some or a lot of control. Once you're on with them and you dissolve your fire department, it's hard to get one back if you don't like the service. There's not a lot of competition out there. It's not like you can just get in the yellow pages and call a bunch of other guys and get some competitive bidding. That's not really practical. A lot of the community, when you get people transient from another department, they don't take ownership in the community. Our firefighters take ownership. They take pride in our community. You can build on that a lot. So that's one thing that you would maintain. You have your own fire department. Again, this is our fire department. It's a municipal department. It's no secret that we're doing this. Nobody's hidden anything for all this time. It's not like any other major departments have come forward and actually asked or formally requested to be here with us. So this is where we are. Matter of fact, other communities have dropped out of this due to certain different reasons or whatever. So other options, 19, private fire companies. That's kind of an old school deal where a lot of fire companies were incorporated. They're still existing. Obviously, the Merton Community Fire Department is a private fire company. Richfield is a private fire company, of which they wish they weren't. Butler There is historically issues with them. They don't necessarily have to be real transparent with their money. A lot of them are, but a lot of them are not. You're really depending a lot on the leadership of that private company, that corporation. And if they tend to gather up funds, build up funds, and hold them for periods of time, I think everybody has some experience with that. The other thing with a private fire company, you're not under the same guidelines as the state of Wisconsin. So in the state of Wisconsin, if you have municipal employees, you can get the benefits with the Wisconsin retirement system. They're under SPS safety guidelines. There just are a lot more benefits to being a firefighter, paramedic in a municipal department. So when you're in a private fire company, those benefits aren't to you. You have OSHA, much different, 401ks. So to attract people and retain staff, we'd be more attractive as a municipal department for sure. The option of staying alone, that's an option. It's not working right now very well. So at one point, Chairman Osterman, probably about 2 years ago, asked me to put together a budget for the full-time fire department just as a model or something to go by. And it pretty much tripled our budget where we are. We'd have to triple to have staffing around the clock. Maintain and sustain that too would also be very expensive. And actually, we can't even do that with the tax levy limits. So at some point, we're not working alone now. We're working, calling on each other, to back each other up now. So that is already failing, and it's really why we're here in the first place. Fix this, we're on the right road. So that's going to lead us to the budget review.
All right, so we'll slide up a few pages here. I'm sorry, but we don't have anything to put them on screen because when we put numbers like this on screen, you can't read them. So this is all going to be off of the sheets that they have. If you put a few sheets up here to the first page, it says,
Does everyone that's not here have this, or is this only in here?
so I think
They have it?
to
Okay.
Ron to send out. The first page, Parkburg Fire District operational budget. So you'll see several lines there. So this very closely looks like the current Lisbon Fire budget, the way that it is laid out. So that's the model that we use there. So you have the 2020 approved Lisbon budget, 2020 approved Burton, the 2020 blended, so that just basically took the first column, second column, and added them. And then there's also a lot of money that had to get shuffled around there. So the 2021, the first line there, the yellow line, that's one of the plans that we do have. And then the green line after that, as if we added one more full-time person on there. So you'll see a lot of money got shifted around other places and such. You also have to take into consideration there that our insurance costs did go up, but that's because this fire department is pulling off of the town of Lisbon's insurance there, so the town of Lisbon should see a drop in the insurance costs on one end and then a rise over on this end here. There's also the full-time person that Lisbon hired in July of this year. Since that was a half year, there is a full year's worth of wages and benefits on there. That's why that increases on there and on top of the regular cost of living adjustments and step wages and those types of things. So this is the preliminary budget that we are looking at. So the next page is the projected revenues that we're looking at and where all of those funds go. So this line pulls from the first plan, the yellow one, from the previous line there. So you have the 2021 budget where the fire dues, where those funds will be where those funds will be placed, the funding assistance plan that the state gives us, any sort of plan review fees, any of our transport revenues, the Bark River training that we still do right now, any other municipality that joins, there is a fee for that, and then the current town of Merton contract where those funds go, and then what is left operationally onto the tax levy. Next page after that is how the department will be funded. So this takes the last 3 years, 2017, 18, and 19, all of the numbers that we need to figure out the percentages for call, volume, population, equalized value of improvements and land. Where all that money sits there, and then how it is divided out down below there. So we do have rent also placed in there because we will not be owning our firehouses. Those will still be part of those still be owned by the municipalities that those are in. So we did add that rent in there for any contracted entities that we do have, so they still are paying a portion of all that rent. So that rent money, after it comes off, does go back to, in this case, the village of Merton. So you'll see the final numbers down there, and then the rent due, and then the total. So, slide, or the page after that is the same thing, except if we add one full-timer, and then the next page after that divides it out the same way, adding that one additional full-timer.
Josh, this is Mark. Can you hear me?
Yes.
When you're referring to the pages, I'm trying to follow along with the attachment that was emailed. Can you say what tab you're looking at so that I can follow along rather than going page by page?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So the second one after the first tab should be the operational budget. The second tab is the projected revenues without the full-time staff. The third tab is the funding formula. The fourth tab is the projected revenues with adding a full-timer. And then the fifth should be the funding formula adding the full-timer. That's where all of the numbers end up. At the back of your handout should be the capital plan. It's folded up because it's printed out on 11 by 17. So this is a 20-year capital plan. It's printed out on this because the numbers are very small, so we try to make them as large as possible. And this gives you a 20-year outlay of what you're looking to spend on your capital and what the potential savings are. So as of right now, the way that this is laid out, the top is what the current plan is, and we can make further adjustments to this. The further out it goes, the fuzzier the image gets. Currently, right now, if Lisbon maintains what they have over 20 years, they will be looking at $7.2 million, which is about $363,000 a year. That's to maintain the engines, the ambulances, the truck, and the various other pieces of equipment that is there. Village of Merton is looking at 3.0 million or 151,000 a year, and Town of Merton will be looking at 3.5 or 177,000 per year. Part of the contract that currently the Merton Community Fire Department has with the Town of Merton and Village of Merton, they also share in those capital costs as well. And that right now is a 46-54% split between the two. If you look at the total capital, the bottom of the page, that has what we're looking as far as if we were to form this combined fire department, what our 20-year total capital would be between the two of us, and then the highlighted one has the Town of Merton in there, and that's what you're looking to spend over 20 years. So the town of Lisbon will be looking to go from 7.2 down to 5.1. Village of Merton from 3.0 to 1.3, and town of Merton from 3.5 to 1.6. So the way that we're able to do that, there's a lot of capital that we have that as a combined fire district, we would not need to have those duplications of reserve engines, reserve ambos, second, third engines, those types of things. So there's a lot of money to be saved in the long term as far as capital. And that money overall is then reinvested into making sure that the trucks that we do have do get out the door in a reasonable amount of time. Are there any questions with the overview of what we're looking at here?
I guess I do.
Yes.
Linda Beal. We pay for our own buildings, like Doug said, correct, and maintaining and so forth. But are we paying the $54,000? Is the town of Lisbon paying the $54,000 for the rent for Merton in the
So-
budget for the Park River?
So let me go back to that. The rent part of the budget,
Mhm.
look over to that first page there, is the combined total of that's 54,000.
Correct.
So that's between Village of Merton would be getting 18,000 and Town of Lisbon 36,000. So that money basically goes in and then comes out, and that's just to make sure that any contracted services that we do have, they're paying in their fair portion of it, and then it gets sent back to you.
I still don't understand. It says building rent.
Yes.
So we're not talking about a building per se?
We are still talking about 3 firehouses, the Village of Merton Firehouse and the Richmond Firehouse and the Cole Firehouse.
Right.
Those are set at 18 grand each. So the municipalities pay that money in to get that money back out. And the reason why they even pay it in the first place is to make sure they aren't paying in that full amount.
Mhm.
You get that full amount back out after places, in this case, the town of Merton pays their portion of it, and you get that money back out.
Does Merton own their own fire station?
The Village of Merton owns the firehouse that we run.
They own it.
Yes, and that's what we do right now.
Okay.
So the rent for the Village of Merton Firehouse is at 18,000.
Okay.
The reason why that's put on there is so that then when the town of Merton pays their portion in, the village gets that money for the rent from the town of Merton. So it's a shuffling the money from capital hours that rent to help people with the lights and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next portion here, we're gonna be talking about the current town of Merton contract that we do have. This question came up a lot as far as what would happen if the town of Merton pulls out and how does the contract would function. So right now, as part of the intermunicipal agreement that we would be forming, any current contract that we do have would be honored at the rates that they are out there for now. So the town of Merton, the Merton Community Fire Department still has a contract with the town of Merton. We receive about $250,000 worth of funds from the town of Merton, from the taxes there, from the fire dues and those types of things. It ends up being about $250,000. That does help staff the Merton Firehouse. So we wish to maintain that, and we don't want to. It's best for the residents on the east side of the town of Merton who will be served by the Merton Firehouse because they're much closer. So we do wish to maintain that. I have had talks with the town of Merton. Recently, they have said that they are not planning on pulling out or making any major changes in the year. So in the event that the town of Merton would pull out, they are due a portion of our current capital that we do have, the fire trucks and such. We'll still be able to maintain an engine, a tender, and engine, tender, and ambulance and a grass truck out of the Merton Firehouse after everything would be said and done there. So overall, that would be plenty of capital to then currently run out of the Merton Firehouse for the calls that the village of Merton would have. So most of our people on the Merton Community Fire Department are village residents or are on the east side of the town. So we really wouldn't see any loss as far as our K9 calls staffing there, which does help us out immensely. And then we would have to figure out how we would staff the village Merton Firehouse. Because we don't want to go into this state of health which is pull out for some reason. We don't want to then not staff the Merton Firehouse with anything. Then that doesn't really help out Merton. So we will maintain staffing there as well as the Merton Firehouse. Where we just have to adjust the overall staffing levels that we have, because that would be over $250,000. But as I said, I don't foresee any changes as far as the town Merton goes. The town Merton is a very large area, and they have 2 fire stations that are actually inside all of the town Merton. That's the Stone Bank Firehouse that Question Lakes is in right now, and the North Lake Firehouse, which actually does belong to Merton Fire Department. However, the North Lake Firehouse is literally 100 years old and has a very difficult time housing any modern fire apparatus over there. The doors just aren't large. The doors just aren't large enough over there. And then to make any changes, it doesn't perform for much of anything. So it would be very, very difficult to make any changes. So there are a lot of reasons why the town of Merton would stay with us here. The other fire department that does help out the town of Merton, Portland Fire Department, they have about 20% of that area. We cover about 40%. Western Lakes covers the other 40%. Any questions with the town of Merton? We would
Yes, I have a question about the town of Merton. How long is that current contract for?
So we currently have a 1-year contract. We go year by year with them. This next contract is a 7-year contract with them. But there are clauses and such that either or could pull out at any time.
I apologize. I didn't hear that last part about the 7-year contract.
So it is currently a 7-year contract, and there are clauses that either can pull out at any time.
Where the town of Merton could pull out at any time?
The town could, or the Merton Fire Department or the Barker Fire District could pull out.
And how does that affect the budget if the town of Merton was to pull out, and with the staffing and all that, is the budget going to go down, go up? Is staffing going to increase or decrease?
So that was a portion that I covered earlier. I'm not sure if you did take it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's hard to
Gotcha.
follow
Yes.
the slideshow.
So the town of Merton contributes about $250,000 to the Merton Community Fire Department, and that's between both the taxes, the fire dues, and those types of things. Ends up being about the $250,000 mark. If the town of Merton were to pull out, that would be a rather large hit. We would have to restructure where we would place our people at. We would make sure that the village of Merton does have staff in that firehouse, and then the Lisbon Fire Department would also have staff in their firehouse as well. So there would be some changes made there. We would also have to divide up the capital. The fire trucks that we do currently have, we will be able to maintain an engine and ammo, a tender, and a grass truck out of the Merton Firehouse.
All right, so my last question with that is, if happen chance, we all know with the current political climate, towns and villages could pull out of deals at any time with at a change of the hat. Have you guys prepared for what that would be? And have you guys put out a presentation on what would be discussed when that happens.
Are you talking if the town of Merton were to pull out, or if we would perform Bark River and then dissolve it?
I'm talking as if Bark River was, established, and then the town of Merton was to pull out for, let's say, Western Lakes or Lake Country or Heartland.
So that's basically what I just went over as far as we would have to restructure where our current staffing would go. That would be a $250,000 hit there. We would have to pull some staffing that we do have out, and then figure out as far as where people would get shuffled to. Our main goal would still be to make sure that we have staffing in the village of Merton and staffing in the town of Lisbon as well.
I have a question for the chief.
Yes.
If the district is formed, is there a chance that the Merton contract could be severed and then bring them in as a non-contract charter member?
Yes, so as part of the contract that we have with the town of Merton and any proposed intermunicipal agreement that we have, it does talk about if the town of Merton wishes to join as a shareholder, they need to join as a shareholder. To become a contractor, to become a charter member, have to be a shareholder for 7 years, and that's to prove they're wanting to stay with this. This is currently a Village of Merton and Town of Lisbon venture, and we want to make sure that any person or any community that does want to join is in this for the long term. So after 7 years, they become a charter member. And the difference between the shareholder and the charter member is the charter members are the ones that get to choose who is allowed in and who is not.
Is it possible to have the town of Merton exit the contract with the village just to make it clean and answer the previous question of not having to dissolve assets at that point?
If the town of Merton does pull out, we would have to get all of our assets appraised, see what things are worth, and they would be their approximate 55% of those assets. Overall, when everything's said and done, we would be left with enough capital that would allow us to still function as a fire department out of the Merton firehouse.
I guess I don't, my question was, can we have the town of Merton dissolve out of the contract with the village first before the district's formed, in a sense, to eliminate any potential for that to happen once the district's already been formed?
I guess we could look at something like that, but the current contract that we have with them, along with the intermunicipal agreement, would bring that contract over as part of the overall Bark River Fire District. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for your time this evening. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach us. So,
Thank you for all the hard work you've done. All of you.
done your homework.
Mhm.
Any comments or questions from the Lisbon board? Martin? No? All right. This next step is adjournment then.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Wait, I have some questions. Are we open for free questions here?
Yes.
So with the fire commission and fire board, those are the two, I guess, establishments that are gonna come into place when the district is formed, right?
Yep, that's correct.
All right, so as far as who qualifies for that? How do you apply for it? And, what are the processes to get going with that? And I guess the last question with that would be, what is the timetable on that?
So the fire board, which takes care of the operations of the fire district, is in this agreement would be 5 members, 3 from Lisbon, 2 from Merton. So they're appointed effectively by the town board would appoint 3, village board would appoint 2. In the municipal agreement, it allows for 1 elected official beyond that, or one of those members could be an elected official for this agreement. Then they would establish that board. On the fire commission, 5 members, 2 are appointed by Lisbon, 2 are appointed by Merton, and then there's 1 overall that both the village of Merton and the town of Lisbon boards would get together on and appoint an overall representative for the fire commission.
May I ask who's speaking?
Chief Braun.
No, that's me then. Who is asking the question?
Tim
Tim who?
Burgess.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, okay, this is the screen. I'm not sure. So does that answer those questions? And as far as the timeline, it depends on how the village is working forward here.
Yeah, that answered most of the questions. So I guess my area not understanding it would be, so you have to apply for it as far as like elected position as you would any other village type position?
Chairman Osterman, when you appoint people to commissions or to committees, is there an application process that you get people that are interested, or how does that work?
It is dependent on which board or commission it is with them, to be honest. This one is very important.
Yep.
So we have to come up with something. Okay. Anything else from either of the boards?
This is Mark.
Awesome.
This is Mark Burrell from Village of Merton. A question here about the intent of the agreements here. We're talking about very substantial costs with long-term implications. I think we're all approaching this, or should be approaching this, from the standpoint of making a commitment to jointly support this community service. Are we building in, or should we be building in anything in the agreement that would provide for any municipality to withdraw from this, but that are we creating disincentives to do so? Disincentives trying to reflect that we're really talking about, making long-term commitments here to have this jointly work.
I'm not totally sure of the question, and I know not everybody in that's zooming in has a copy of the intermunicipal agreement, but there are quite a few pages that are dedicated to the membership of this fire district and all of the provisions if people want to pull out and to do it equitably.
I think what he's saying is that instead of making it equitable to pull out, make it where it actually.
It's distinct a little bit.
Right. Good way to put
Well,
it.
there is a substantial amount of benefit of staying in, obviously, for the benefit of the services that you achieve by sharing in services. And with whether you're a charter member or a shareholder or a contracted service, the thing that's fair about this is the amount of money and the formulas are the same for everyone. This document doesn't yield to somebody having a more benefit off of another community whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think he's going that route, but I don't necessarily disagree with what he's saying. Like if there's eventually if there's 4 members in the group and one decides they want to pull out and the other 3 want to stay, where there's a penalty, like if it's 25, 25, 25, 25, which is not going to be, but it's easy numbers, where it'd be like a 10% penalty or something for them leaving.
Yeah, but if there's a minimum commitment, you could also have a prorated thing, I guess you could call it. Yes, it hurts more in year one than it hurts in year 6 or 7.
Incentive to stay in it.
Yes.
I think that's the nature of what I was getting at, to try to strengthen the joint commitment from everybody to each other, although I try to use the word disincentive rather than penalty.
Something we'll have to look at. Is that something both the boards would want to look at?
Chair Ashman, I would be in favor of that in the sense that I believe it was Trustee Bernal said that it would essentially give the remaining members a longer potential to forecast their future as well. And I would be in favor of that as well.
Linda?
I don't think it would hurt if we find out the numbers and stuff and try and just see what it amounts to.
Becky?
It's fine with me.
Bruce? Jeff?
Yeah, I think we should name it for a long haul. There's a lot of work to do.
Mark, I'll ask you, I think I know where you're coming from.
So this document has to go back to the attorneys for a final. All those notes we should definitely put in there.
We should look as well as far as what the timeframe of notification is. That might be another way to do it too, is maybe say it's a 24-month notification versus at any time type of thing.
It is in here.
It's been so long since I've
Read that?
read that section.
There is a time frame that they have to give notice of their backing.
Is it 2 years? Okay.
I do have a question on the opposite end of the, I guess, penalty for withdrawing from the district.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you, Mark.
My question would be, is there going to be a capital investment that a new member, I guess they would be called shareholders, would have to put forth to the district, essentially when they enter the district, to allow the district to further their capital investments?
Like, depending on what they bring in, like if they bring in enough equipment, it's one thing, but if they come in not having any equipment, what would be the initial buy-in, so to say? How would you figure that out?
Correct. In a sense, somebody could bring in zero capital assets as well as zero funding dollars, other than what the cost is to be a shareholder, versus other members could bring a substantial capital monetary evaluations and also have the ability to pay. My question would be is, how are we going to deal with that?
Again, we can add that in. The formulas for becoming a new member could be changed for that contribution. And then they could be paying more, but over time.
I mean, like right now, all of us are bringing considerable assets to this, to
Yeah.
the point where some of them are gonna be eliminated, not however it's worked out that way. But if somebody came in that didn't have anything, what would that look like? Okay. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I might have missed it. Was there an answer to that?
Gonna have to be looked at, was the answer.
Thank you.
Did anything?
This is Mark. I certainly applaud the efforts that and contributions that everyone has made to this.
Thank you, Mark.
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Steve. One more go around. Any more questions, Becky?
No.
Linda?
No.
No? All
Oh,
Anything else from
sorry.
staff then?
I'm sorry. I got a delay in internet connection here. Is there a formal copy that could be made easily available to people like myself who didn't get a email of the agenda tonight?
Who is this again?
Tim Burgess, sorry.
Yeah, we can. That's what I'll do.
Can it be made available on the village's website or?
It'll be available for you at the Merton Firehouse tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Linda for the Lisbon Board. Is there a second? We gotta do each individual. I'll second for the Lisbon Board. All in favor for Lisbon? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries for Lisbon at 7:51.
Is there a motion for Merton? And a second? All in favor?
Also at
Thank you
7:52.
very, very much.
Thank you.